It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right. How's it going, everybody? It is Friday night, July 5th, 2024. Welcome to your latest sit down. I am Don Tony, and it is time to acknowledge your new tribal chief. Solo Sikoa calling the first shot tonight. Remember, losing has consequences. Now, Roman Reigns lost the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at WrestleMania 40 against Cody Rhodes. Losing has consequences. If they have Cody Rhodes take on Solo Sikoa, what happens when Solo Sikoa loses? Wrestling should be really, really interesting going into the summer months, into Survivor Series. And I tell you, we have Money in the Bank tomorrow night. And there's a lot of interesting twists and turns that could have come out of it. Now, this show that we do on Friday nights is mainly you ask the questions to me, I answer them. You have comments, I share them. Obviously, we talk about a couple little tidbits here and there, and we give some brief thoughts on SmackDown. But I will say this, very interesting to watch earlier today. I don't know if you all have seen it or not. There is a 3 or 4 minute video floating around on Twitter, and I'm sure other platforms as well, of behind the scenes, Damian Priest cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase and winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. And I had never seen that footage before. I am pretty sure it's new as far as what's come out. I don't recall anyone ever sending it to me, no one commenting about it. But as I watched that footage, I think of two things. Number one, this WrestleMania 40 behind the curtain documentary, it's like, the hell with everybody else. Let's just talk about Cody Rhodes and The Rock for the most part for an hour. In those 3.5 to 4 minutes that I watched of Damian Priest and the interaction and the emotion and the real feeling that comes through it, watching Finn Balor crying, Rhea Ripley smiling from the ear to ear, Damian Priest's father, I believe. Yes, it was all celebration, but that felt 1,000 times more realistic than what we watched on that documentary. And in hindsight, it's kind of sad that Damian Priest could very well end up losing the championship tomorrow and being out of Judgment Day. And you almost feel like if this footage has been released fairly recently, that this should have come out maybe a couple of months ago. Yeah, I know we're supposed to be entertained first and foremost, but when you just have an additional liking for someone, when you really personally appreciate someone or you see the authenticity, you kind of want to root for the person that much more. And after I watch this video, I kind of feel bad that Damian Priest has had, quite honestly, a lackluster run for the 3 months that he's been champion. Now, don't get me wrong, Damian Priest has been fine in the ring. It's not his in-ring work. It's just the lack of clarity that WWE possessed for the last 3-4 months. Getting a little bit more babyface with R-Truth and then attacking R-Truth, being more, lighthearted and comedic and being a little bit softer. And then this forced, like anger, and then the mixed messages. And it just really, and the all rise, the way that they portrayed it, it was goofy. And I tell you, I just feel, on the WWE creative side of things, they did not help Damian Priest's run. There should have been more clarity. I listen, of course, we're Monday morning quarterbacking things. You do want the Judgment Day to have a celebration, but at the flip side of it, for 3 months, we didn't know what Damian Priest actually was, and I still can't accept the fact, yes, the Liv Morgan storyline is now in full force. But even before that, when the Judgment Day were starting to get really at odds with each other for 3-4 weeks, where Liv Morgan really wasn't a factor in it as of yet, just in storyline, we watched Rhea Ripley behind the scenes, we're the Judgment Day. We won Monday Night Raw. Snap out of it. We're the Judgment Day. And to see social media footage of her sitting on a couch reading a book for 3, 4, 5 weeks. What did she get? A brain bleed and she couldn't fly? She hurt her arm. She hurt her elbow. No appearance at all. That's the thing. And listen, yes, I am nitpicking. Of course, when she returns, we're going to get this crazy ass pop. No question. And listen, she is nearing a return. Make no mistake about it. She is nearing a return. But when you go back on it, it's just shoddy writing on behalf of WWE, why she would just sit at home and allow things to implode and allow Liv Morgan to go as far as she has up to this point. Now, in the case of Roman Reigns, though, it's a little bit different. And it's very interesting. And listen, as far as the WrestleMania 40 documentary goes, Kevin and I are going to have a very deep conversation about it on Monday, because Kevin and I have been taking a certain stance for months and months and months, and we are sticking with that. And a lot of people believe now what we were saying all along was actually the plan. When you see all the coming attractions for this special, all you hear is, fooling them, blurring the lines, keep them, blurred from reality and this and that. You see that WWE is doing cinema. And there's little nuances. Cody Rhodes goes into his bus all dejected about what just happened on TV, following him almost like Wrestling with Shadows with Bret Hart. And conveniently, not only is the bottle of vodka sitting on his table with a whole bunch of sippy cups, but the label is perfectly centered facing the camera. I have a bottle right now. I have Saratoga Club Soda, Seltzer. By the way, very, very cheap price on Amazon. $15 for 12 of these. Very, very good deal. But, when I drink something, I usually have the label looking at me. I don't place it in a certain perfect position for the camera. There's so many things. There's so many things we could rip apart about that. The night Cody Rhodes points to Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble, the cameraman just happened to be in the perfect position. And Michael Cole not only, leaving no doubt, but saying Cody is clearly chosen his opponent. Where's the footage of the aftermath of Cody going into business for himself? Where is the uproar and the anger from management, TKO, and everything else? Where is, what was Cody Rhodes' role supposed to be at WrestleMania 40? Because remember, CM Punk got injured that night. No one knew the extent of CM Punk's injury. CM Punk was taking on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40. And if you want to go on that mindset that The Rock was going to take on Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, who is Cody going to face winning the Royal Rumble? I mean, this documentary, just to put it in a summary, this was to strengthen The Rock, to try to get the fans to not be so hard on The Rock. And plus, the final boss. If the final boss tells you that Cody was finishing the story all along, that kind of destroys The Rock's character. It kind of destroys the credibility of a lot of people. These are entertainers. These are performers. That documentary was designed for one thing and one thing only. Well, two. Number one, to continue the story going into WrestleMania 41 of The Rock versus Roman Reigns. And number two, to strengthen the fans to believe the fans are the reason Cody still finished the story after all. If it wasn't for the fans in protest, just total uproar that Cody, his storyline for 2 years, all that love for Dusty, that American Nightmare documentary that aired only a couple of months before, Brian Gerwitz conveniently doing interviews at that time. I don't see The Rock returning during the SAG after the writer's strike. And I don't, when you start putting a whole bunch of things together, you realize this was to make the fans believe that they truly have bigger voice than you think. And it's also to help strengthen The Rock's credibility when he does return. Now, and I appreciate everybody for the feedback. Don't give me just the credit. A hell of a lot of people figured it out. But this is not a negative thing. This is the difference. This is what I wish people would understand. We're wrestling fans. Suspension of disbelief is what is wrestling. That is wrestling. Whether it's AEW, Ring of Honor, MLW, GCW, and New Japan, All Japan, No Japan, WWE, ECW, NXT, doesn't matter. Suspension of disbelief. Every time somebody punches someone in the ring, suspension of disbelief. When CM Punk and Drew McIntyre want to kill each other, suspension of disbelief. When Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné are having this confrontation in the middle of the ring, suspension of disbelief. Everything about wrestling is suspension of disbelief, whether it's physical or it's verbal or it's mental. It is suspension of disbelief. WWE's job is to give you the greatest suspension of disbelief. Solo Sikoa going into business for himself now. The Rogue Bloodline. Roman Reigns no longer is the tribal chief. I'm the tribal chief. If he has a problem with that, tell him to come get it. Suspension of disbelief. The USA, everybody wants to kill each other in the bloodline. Suspension of disbelief. That's what that documentary was. Suspension of disbelief at some of its finest. It's just disappointing that other people who had very big roles at WrestleMania were not mentioned at all. I don't want these documentaries to turn into one or two event. Like everything else is really below the card. There was a lot of great stories coming out of WrestleMania. And if you're going to hype up WrestleMania 40 behind the curtain, if you're only going to focus on these four guys, they should have come out with another special, something else, to clear this up. Because after 3 months, this felt like, it was to what I said with The Rock and with Cody. That's what this was all about. But this is great. This is the thing about it. It's great. It's not, you were wrong, I was right. I was wrong, you were right. It's about blurring the lines between reality and story. And they did it beautifully. So we're going to talk about it a little bit more on Monday. But as far as Solo Sikoa goes, remember what I was just saying about, and we'll open the floor up. I definitely don't want you all to wait to send in your questions tonight. But as far as Roman Reigns, this is a little bit different than the Rhea Ripley situation, because we just talked about Rhea Ripley in storyline. Why did she not show up even once early on when the Judgment Day were at odds with each other? Why allow it to get to this point? Unless she was turning full-blown heel and splitting away. Obviously, that's not the case. Roman Reigns, if you take a step back for a minute, something I've been saying for a few months now, and please, this is not the majority. Roman Reigns technically should be a monster heel right now, because Roman Reigns turned his back on WWE. He turned his back on the WWE Universe. He turned his back on Paul Heyman. He turned his back and just walked away. He quit. He left. Gives no explanation at all. Allows Solo Sikoa to get drunk with power. Allows all of this chaos to go down. Allows Jimmy Uso to get destroyed. Allows everything that has led up to this point. Allows other members of this rogue bloodline to come in. And he's nowhere to be found. Just sits back and lets this all happen. If you really look at it like that, Roman Reigns is the heel because he did nothing about it. He watched everything blow up and just sat back and then just laughed at it. Unless, yes, we're trying to cut back on the vulgarity of the shows, but you know that when I wrote was Roman Reigns rock blocked, that rhymes with a certain sexual word. When you prevent someone to have sexual activity, just replace the R with a letter C, and you know where I'm going with that. Could we learn later on that Roman Reigns couldn't return? That somebody was blocking his return. Someone would not allow him to return. I know that sounds a little bit far-fetched right now, and in no way, shape, or form am I saying that that's going to happen. Fact of the matter is, when we do these shows, anybody that sends questions, I answer them. Sends comments, I share them. If you contribute with super chats or PayPals or anything like that, you obviously go to the front of the line because that helps us pay the bills and everything. And somebody sent us a PayPal this week. It's a DT. Do you think it's possible that The Rock, to set up the match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 41, that we will have a revelation that The Rock is the person behind Roman Reigns not allowing to come back and allowing Solo Sikoa to do what he's been doing? Because losing has consequences. That is not a bad scenario. Because what is Roman Reigns' explanation why he left and never came back? He was hurt. Even if he was hurt, if he felt betrayed, even if he felt all of that, he still allowed the people who betrayed him to get to the point that they're at now. Follow me? That's why CM Punk was never going to allow Drew McIntyre in story to become World Heavyweight Champion in Scotland. People wishing death on Triple H for the creative blunder of having Drew McIntyre get screwed in his home country for a second time. No, CM Punk wants to destroy Drew McIntyre's life, does not want to give, that's gangster. You don't want to give your foe even an ounce of happiness. That's why I believe tomorrow, Money in the Bank, CM Punk absolutely is going to ruin Drew McIntyre again. Has to. Now, someone else, Mike T, sent this to me earlier that I wanted to share with all of you. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's a freaking fabulous idea. Now, my pick to win Money in the Bank, maybe more of who I'm rooting for, is LA Knight. Because I think if you follow the storyline with LA Knight and Logan Paul refuses to give LA Knight a title shot. Logan Paul being the chicken shit and refuses to give Logan Paul, LA Knight any title shot. So to go a little bit against the grain, LA Knight wins the briefcase. And because Logan Paul won't give him a title shot, LA Knight tells WWE, I'm cashing in my briefcase and I'm cashing in on Logan Paul. Logan Paul has no choice but to defend the United States Championship against LA Knight. I know it's not the World Heavyweight Championship, but again, I asked the question, if LA Knight wins the briefcase, do you see him dethroning Cody? No. Do you see him dethroning Damian Priest, Seth Rollins, or Gunther? No. So who that wins the briefcase is going to possibly become World Heavyweight Champion? Even Jey Uso. We're about to get the Bloodline infighting. Who's Jey Uso going to cash in on? There's nobody. It's not happening. So here's the idea that Mike T had sent to me. Drew McIntyre wins Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre planted the seed on Monday that when he wins Money in the Bank, he is cashing in at Money in the Bank and leaving that event as World Heavyweight Champion. So you open up Money in the Bank with the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Drew McIntyre wins Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre immediately tells the WWE Universe that I am cashing in tonight and I am being added to that main event. I know what some of you are going to say. Well, if Drew is smart, Drew does not cash in that early because then Drew has to work the entire match. Drew should come out only towards the end of the match and get involved. I get it. You could choose whichever scenario you want. But Drew McIntyre cashes in Money in the Bank, so it ends up at some point being a three-way, almost like Seth Rollins. You remember the cash-in. Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins. Then when the three of them are going at it, whether it's the entire match or the last couple of minutes, CM Punk comes out there, CM Punk hits the go to sleep on Drew McIntyre, knocks his ass out, and Seth Rollins pins Drew McIntyre. Damian Priest loses his championship and loses his right to be in the Judgment Day, and he wasn't even pinned. If you're going to call somebody a baby face, that is the ultimate fist in the butt. So I like that scenario. That makes Damian Priest the ultimate screw. That is the ultimate screw job. That he didn't even get pinned. Not only did he lose his title, but he loses his spot in the Judgment Day in the process. Then you could have the Judgment Day turn on Damian Priest. I don't want to say, tomorrow, but in the very near future. And then this leads obviously into SummerSlam. So I don't know. What do you all think about that idea? I think that idea is excellent. Excellent idea. Absolutely love that idea. So, but hey, in 24 hours, we will know what goes down. We'll see what happens with predictions. By the way, speaking of predictions, just a final reminder for our Patreon friends and our channel members here on YouTube. This is where this show's being recorded. You have until midnight tonight to put in your entry for the Money in the Bank predictions contest. Remember, we have a contest on YouTube. We have a contest on Patreon. We give away a pair of 50 spots. So once my show is over tonight, I put up everybody's entries and the contest is closed. So you have only about an hour and a half left to get your entry in. So what do you all think about that scenario for Money in the Bank? And what do you think about The Rock being behind Roman Reigns, not returning as of yet? And I'll say one last thing, and then we'll mention briefly some SmackDown because we got new tag team champions tonight. As you watch the WrestleMania 40 documentary, and I don't have any of my notes in front of me. I don't have any of the bullet points that I put together. I don't have any of the things, ammunition to back up, Kevin and I's conversation we've been having. But I will say this. Remember what The Rock told ESPN. The Rock said this a year and a half ago, actually. And The Rock said it recently in an ESPN interview. The Rock and Roman Reigns was always the plan. WrestleMania 39. They had the match, but Rock said we did not have the why. Now, if you're going to go on the mindset that The Rock shows up, becomes available, and says, I'm getting the shot, and arguably wins the championship and then has to surrender the title so he could go film MMA and do all his other movie commitments, and like I said, totally fuck up everything about Cody and Dusty for the last 2 years. If you go in that scenario, what is the difference between the why from 2 years ago and the why for WrestleMania 40? There still is no why. Just showing up and becoming available is not the why, because that why was available for WrestleMania 38 or 39, I should say. So got to remember a lot of little nuances. And here's another little tidbit. Some of you may get a kick out of this. If you want to entertain yourself, do a little Twitter search on The Rock's profile. But not just go and do an advanced Twitter search on The Rock's profile, but go to Wayback Machine and search The Rock's profile and go from WrestleMania 39 up until WrestleMania 40, up until when, we're supposed to believe that The Rock was going to face Roman. Or that idea became a legitimate possibility. Go search Roman Reigns' social media. Never once mentioned anything about Cody Rhodes. If you go prior to WrestleMania 39, you will find a lot of love for the Rhodes family and Cody. But between WrestleMania 39 and WrestleMania 40, there is not one time that The Rock mentions the word Cody in social media. Figure I'd share that. So, all right. We have new tag team champions. Congratulations to DIY, who are your new SmackDown tag team champions. They defeated Grayson Waller and Austin Theory tonight. 1 second. And turn the AC on. It's a little hot here in New York tonight. Tommaso Ciampa with the Sicilian stretch on Austin Theory, and Johnny Gargano with the no escape on Grayson Waller. Interesting that Jessica Carr allowed both teams to be in the ring with both submissions. I know Grayson Waller was the legal man, but did not even try to get the other two members outside the ring. But there was definitely a few backfires during this match. Grayson Waller inadvertently nailing Austin Theory once. Another time, Gargano goes to kick Waller, and he moves out of the way and nails Austin Theory. It is pretty clear cut that this tag team is just about over. I'll say this, the tag team scene in the WWE is very weak right now. That's not a criticism on DIY, but the tag team scene in the WWE right now is very, very weak. We had Miz and R-Truth for several months. And even a lot of people were like, look, it was a feel-good moment at WrestleMania, but come on, And tonight, WWE doing a pretty serious video package about tag team wrestling from yesteryear. And as you're watching Demolition and the Hart Foundation and the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Usos. They even showed Cesaro and Sheamus. And you look at today, you're like, wow, they really have not focused all that much on tag team wrestling, as far as the real meat and potatoes of it. But, tonight, DIY winning it, they did it in the perfect arena. Timing is everything. They did it in Toronto. 7 years ago, they won the NXT tag titles in the same building. 2 years ago, they returned in that same building. That building has shown a lot. Toronto showed a lot of love and appreciation for DIY over the years. It was the perfect place to do it. Crowd was hot. Obviously, it's Money in the Bank weekend. But I'll say if you pay close attention to DIY over the last 4 months, 5 months, this was their final stand because they got more title shots than I think people realize. They got quite a few and they kept falling short. Tonight felt a little bit different. A lot of people, as the match was going on, and it wasn't just about the main event because we knew that SmackDown was going off the air with Solo Sikoa addressing what happened last week. So, the match itself, the decision was not going to be the final thing you see for SmackDown tonight. But as the match was going on, majority of you on social media was saying, I think this is the night. I think DIY is going to win it. Listen, there's no question that DIY are extremely talented. I think it is more the fault of creative. They have definitely improved a little bit with the way Tommaso Ciampa cuts his promos backstage and, really pumps it up. But, there's been more times, a majority of times, that music hits and there's no reaction whatsoever. So, beating the right people in the right building really gives the impression of it feeling bigger than what it is. And a title change is always a big deal. Make no mistake about it. And trust me, that title change tonight definitely means a hell of a lot to Ciampa and Gargano because a lot of people always felt Gargano, main roster. Some of the biggest critics out there have said that. Ciampa, extremely talented, but a lot of people thought, listen, there was people lobbying, quite a few, that Ciampa should turn heel and maybe even join the Wyatt Six before the 5 of the members were going to be revealed. So to see this turnaround for both of them was a good thing. Now the question is who they feud with. I get this weird feeling that we might see 2 members of the Bloodline ultimately dethrone Gargano and Ciampa. It could be Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. I don't know. I don't see Solo Sikoa becoming a tag team champion with anyone because a lot of people think right now it's going to end up being Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu versus the Usos. Unless Hikuleo shows up, there's other members of the Fatu family that people are starting to talk about now. It's funny because they do have other family members that look the part, but can they play the part? You don't just start signing every Fatu because they're a family member. You got to sign the people that you believe can really fit the role and fit the role nicely. If you have Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga feud with the Usos, then you need another big man to go up against Jacob Fatu. So, there's obviously going to be more coming to this. I think at the end of the day, though, I think The Rock is that wild card. The Rock is that wild card. And The Rock, if he does what you and I have been discussing off and on, now you have the why. That is the most important thing. Now you have the why. And I think it's pretty damn clear The Rock has to be the heel. Roman Reigns has to be the babyface. The Rock on this documentary is trying to convince us that the final boss is the greatest heel in the history of pro wrestling. Remember, my friends, The Rock, Brian Gerwitz, these are the same people who produced the Who Killed WCW. This is all about inflating. This is all about grossly exaggerating. This is all about generating attention, generating ratings, not so much on real concrete facts. That's something you got to remember, suspending disbelief. Look, I was reading Dave Meltzer's newsletter today, and Dave Meltzer even called out a little bit about this documentary, saying that, this was very loosely based. Of course it was loosely based. This is to build storyline. It's not on the level of Kane's documentary from back in the day. People remember what I'm talking about. This is about continuing. And you know what? There's even a tweet that I took a screenshot of that I'm going to share on Monday. But it's a tweet from Triple H about that documentary. And Triple H said that this WrestleMania 40 Behind the Curtain is not necessarily about finishing a story. It's about starting another, continuing a story. That documentary was strategically placed now because we're entering the summer months. We're entering the road to Roman Reigns' return. If you remember last year, that American Nightmare documentary was very strategically placed right before the road to the Royal Rumble. They are very, very, people were like, oh, why are they taking 3-4 months to put out this documentary? Because if that documentary would have come out in late April or early May, people would have eaten it, spit it out, eaten it again, shit it out, digested it. By now, it would be like, it's kind of worn off. That's why the lines were blurred as hard as they were. Remember, Cody Rhodes won Royal Rumble in January. WrestleMania was not until the beginning of April. How do you keep the fans glued to Cody Rhodes for 3 months when he's not going to be interacting every week with Roman Reigns? You had to blur the lines even further. And it made the fans feel like they were the ones that told WWE, no, Cody is finishing the story. That is why and this is not jealousy, but that's why Sam Roberts, Dave LaGreca, and a few other podcasters made that documentary. If I sit here and talk about storyline, I make no documentary. But if I sit here and say, I can't believe The Rock is going to screw Cody Rhodes, 2 years of finishing the story for his dad, for the WWE Universe. Rock, you can't do that. If I talk as if what I'm seeing is 100% real, no lines blurred, it is 100% reality, I'll make a documentary somewhere. That's how the sausage is made. If you really pay attention to the Dave LaGrecas of the world and the Sam Roberts of the world, they do two different things. When it's not focused on something major, they'll talk about storylines, they'll talk about booking, they'll talk about whatever. But if it's something that is major, that is obviously something to this magnitude, they'll talk as if what they're watching is real. And if you saw all the clips of all these media podcasters reacting to The Rock, they're reacting as if The Rock really went in there, put a whole bunch of Vaseline on his fist and told TKO, hey, bring Cody in here. Hey, Cody, hey, see this? Bend over. Here. That's for your dad. Here. That's you telling Georgia, I have to win this. That's telling every house show that I'm bringing it home. I'm going to finish the story. I'm doing it for all of you. I need this. I need you. I need you to be with me. Everything about Cody's storyline was hard times. Everything about Cody's story, it was influenced by Dusty Rhodes, going right down to The Rock. Dream says, how many times are going to say this? Till people actually stop with this. No. Until people stop with that. Enjoy it. There's no right, there's no wrong. But the denial and the insistence that, no, he really went into business for himself. And I'm not going to sit here and just act, like, oh, yeah, The Rock action. No, I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to talk about it. And the fucking documentary just came out 2 days ago. So, of course, I'm going to bring it up again. All right. Let's, couple other things from SmackDown tonight. Next week we got Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo taking on Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews, the match that nobody asked for. And listen, I know we called the release of quite a few people this year. And I'm not saying that Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo are going to be released or the contracts are going to be non-renewed. But there's a lot of little writings on the wall that there's a possibility that one or both could end up leaving later this year. They are not booked for Monterrey, Mexico. And usually WWE, especially when they go to certain areas outside, a regional over here, they will bring, homegrown homeboys. That's why they go overseas. They go to Scotland. You see, certain individuals get a match. You see them go here to certain. So they went out of their way to tell Monterrey, look, we're not going to be appearing this year. And it was interesting because Humberto Carrillo, after Angel Garza wrote that in Spanish, Humberto Carrillo wrote it in English and like Damage Control, like, oh, there's other times, look, we're not saying this and that. I think that there's some writing on the wall that Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, I'm not saying they're going to be released, but if it happens, don't be surprised. There's a lot of little things going on right now that seem like, this might be the beginning of the end of them in the WWE. Obviously, tonight was to hype up Money in the Bank. The SmackDown opened with a typical, I know a lot of people like, oh, this felt like Vince was writing it because every person comes out to the entrance music and they cut a promo. It was funny how Andrade got to say one sentence. As much as we like Andrade and as much as we're happy that him and Charlotte are a very, loving couple, Andrade on the microphone is not the most polished person. And as soon as he started talking, Drew McIntyre's music hits. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. What do you call him? El Idiot? El Idiot. I like that. But, it felt like an old school opening. I mean, I'll say this. Sorry, Dream. I'll say this that I've said 1,000 times over the years. Triple H has been there since 1995. Triple H has been in that machine. Why do people think that everything Triple H does is not going to look like it's kind of a reflection of what Vince used to do? It's not. Stop with the Triple H was in the corner. I can't wait for him to be gone in there. Of course, Triple H has fresh ideas. Triple H is very, very smart. Triple H is more about reality. Triple H is more about suspension of disbelief. Triple H is more about social media and taking advantage of that. And especially that TKO Group Holdings Endeavor now owns WWE. They're answering to a whole bunch of different people. So Triple H absolutely has his own ideas that he's adapting with the times. I know there's an out-of-date reference, but, a lot of you that are a little bit older like me, I was thinking about this earlier today. When I started doing the wrestling hotline, Dominic Mysterio and Braun Breaker were not alive. That's how long I've been doing this. It's pretty fucking wild. I think Rhea Ripley wasn't even born yet, or she might have just been born. That's how long I've been doing this. But here's an out-of-date reference. Vern Gagne. If you watch any shoot interview from people that were around that time, I know a whole bunch of Mean Gene Okerlund stuff is starting to circulate for some reason. You ask anybody, why did AWA go downhill so quickly? And it wasn't just Vince McMahon stealing all the talent. It's that Vern Gagne refused to adapt with the times. You have to adapt with the times. Now, WWE, obviously, I don't want to say that Vince did not adapt with the times, but there was a lot that Vince McMahon got very, very complacent with. And you see how it's being capitalized right now. Going overseas, that's a funny thing because someone reminded me the other day, when WWE first inked the deal with Saudi Arabia, there's an episode of the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. I have to look up the date, but somebody was talking about it on Patreon the other day. There was an episode of the DTKC show, and we were talking about the financial decline of WWE. Now, this is about a year or two after the Saudi deal was announced. And, WWE was definitely declining on a lot of house shows, revenue, and ratings were going down. Now, they weren't in any trouble or anything, but, we said, that Saudi money that's influxed, that's, flooding their revenue every year, saves them in a lot of ways. Getting fucking, the money that they get, $50 million per, which is more than WrestleMania. That covers up a lot of inept. And we were saying, what's going to happen when the Saudi deal, starts to come to an end? And we said, WWE really should capitalize the international market. They should go on freaking everywhere overseas because they never go to certain areas and they could make a killing on revenue and ticket sales. You go where they are and you ain't been or haven't been in ages, you can make some serious coin that way. Now, I'm not saying anybody listened to us, but I'm sure a lot of you out there as well. But going overseas, one of the smartest things that WWE has done this year and last year. That's why you keep hearing record revenue. They're not, relying just on Chicago and relying just on New York or this or that. They are going to areas where, this is a once possibly in a lifetime or in a decade opportunity. And the thing is, you get something like Puerto Rico and the crowd the way it was, and people like, oh, they got to bring Backlash back to Puerto Rico. And then you do it, you go to Australia, and then everybody's like, holy shit, do you see how they treated it? And then you have Scotland, and you have this, phenomenal. And now you feel like every year they got to go back to these places. With WWE, you can't do it for house shows. The people aren't going to pay that kind of money for a typical house show. So premium live events, there's only a certain number of premium live events every year. You got to be very, very strategic in where you have them. So, and here's another thing, listen, I'm not criticizing AEW this week. I actually have quite a bit of positive to say this week about AEW, but I will say this, the buy rate for Forbidden Door, the early buy rate is out. And they're estimating around 110,000 buys, which they're calling, realistically, it's a disappointment. 110,000 buys is a disappointment. And I'm already seeing the elite whack job say, oh, that's $2 million in profit. That's $3 million in profit. My friends, if I have $100,000 in credit card debt and I sell a nice insurance policy and I take in 10 G's, I'm still 90,000 in debt. Getting 2 million, 3 million off of pay-per-view money when you are 100 to $150 million in the hole every year, they ain't no profit. If you are in the red and you get an influx, oh, look, $3 million. That doesn't mean shit. Now you're 97 million in the hole instead of 100 million in the hole. So please do not pay attention to these morons out there because they know that there's thousands of brain dead fools out there that'll buy it. So, speaking of AEW and NXT, want to give a super shout out to Jimmy James. Jimmy sent me back-to-backs here. First, he says 2 weeks ago, NXT was averaging 740,000 viewers. 2 weeks ago, Kevin and I said that a steep ratings decline was about to begin for NXT. Since then, they dropped to 611,000 and now 542,000. DT, why do you think we saw that drop was coming? Luck? No. 2 weeks ago, if you tune into the very end of the DTKC show, we were talking about ratings, they were still doing low to mid sevens. And I said, they're about to have a big, steep decline. Now, we were obviously short for time, so we didn't get into it very much detail. But once they did this North American tournament and they started really pushing a lot of names that are not, like real, I don't want to say household names, because there's a lot of names in NXT that are not household names. But it is pretty clear that they have lowered the number of the names that are getting the biggest pushes right now are not the biggest draws. Meechin and Jada Parker, I watched that match. And the only reason why I watched it, well, two reasons. One, Meechin almost lost all of her front teeth on the chair spot, if you saw it. And the second reason is because Dave Meltzer gave that match 4.5 stars. Now, I don't give a shit about match ratings. Me, I like it. I don't like it. That's what matters. But when he gave an NXT match with Meechin and Jada Parker 4.5 stars, I said, I got to see this match. And I thought the match was very, very good. But it drew one of the lowest ratings of the night to open up NXT. Why? It's nothing against Meechin. Meechin works her ass off. If you tuned into this past Monday's episode of the DTKC show, we had a convo about Meechin. Not everybody in the WWE is going to get pushed. Not everybody in the WWE is going to have the greatest winning streak or titles or anything like that. Some people need to fit roles. Natalya, with all due respect, Natalya does not, from far as I was told from people, she doesn't know if she's ready to become a part-time trainer. She feels that she still has a lot to give inside the ring. Listen, when you get older, no matter what you do physically, it's definitely depression. You get into your 40s, especially if you're a female in wrestling, it's got to be crushing to look at yourself and say, wow, I'm over the hill. I could still go, but my shelf life, I'm close to expiration. I'm kind of outdated, and that's got to hurt. I'm not saying that Natalya's outdated or anything like that, but there's got to be a denial, depression, a refusal to say, look, it's, my time is almost coming. That's why if you follow Natalya's social media when she's in character or even on TV, I'm not appreciated. I've deserved this opportunity. It's almost like Dana Brooke, but with a successful Hall of Fame career. Natalya will make you think the last couple of years that she's got no opportunity. She's in the fucking Guinness World Record and the most wins by a women's wrestler, I think, something like that. My point is, Meechin is kind of filling that role now, where she works great matches, but she is given mostly losses. If you look at her singles record in the last 12 months, I could count the number of wins on one hand. But you look at some house shows and she's in a 6-man with Bianca Belair and somebody else, and she gets a couple of wins. It kind of puts a little bit of a smoke, and mirrors that, oh no, she gets her share of wins. Meechin, for the most part, is there to enhance others. Her coming to the save for Naomi or Bailey tonight, or, whatever she was doing tonight, and then getting attacked from Nia Jackson. Next week, it's Meechin and Nia Jackson. They have a bone to pick. Nia's going to squash her like a fucking grape. A lot of people, as much as they appreciate Meechin and as much as Meechin deserves better, I believe she deserves better, she is getting matches, but for the most part, she loses. She's not must-see TV. She's not let me stay on the channel. Now, obviously, drop your mouth on a couple of more chairs during matches and people might stick around to see if a car accident's going to happen, But unfortunately, when you see, who's on NXT, there's a lot of names that are not draws. I'm looking at the ratings breakdown from this past Tuesday. Izzy Dame is not a household name yet. Hank and Tank is just, to me, it's like, let me go take a dump for a little while. Oro Mensah is okay. Miles Bourne is okay. But as I go through these, even Ethan Page, and this is not a knock on Ethan Page. I've been singing the praise of Ethan Page for a hell of a long time. But even Ethan Page, nobody in their right mind thinks Trick Williams is losing his championship right now. So Ethan Page getting pushed with Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears, to me, if you look in the right camera angle, he looks kind of like Ricochet. We've kind of had some fun with that. Shawn Spears does nothing for me. you get a little bit of a reaction, fine. He works hard, fine. But Sean Spears, the perfect 10. You look up and down this card. This was coming. 2 weeks ago, Kevin, I said, expect a steep decline. And it's here. It's here. 2 weeks. They went from 740 to 540. Go home show for Heatwave, 540. So Jimmy follows up with this. Coming off of Forbidden Door, am I surprised AEW Dynamite only drew 688? I did say that they would get back over 700,000. Yeah, last week I did say that I expected AEW to get right back over 700,000. Didn't happen. It's this close, but let me say this. This week, MJF turned on Daniel Garcia. I'm not saying I told you so, but I've been saying for weeks, he's the devil. He's the devil. I don't know why people thought he was going to be this big baby face. Tony Khan, what was the clear-cut sign? And I've brought this up before. When Tony Khan got Meltzer drivered by the Young Bucks and is wearing a goofy neck brace, and you're bringing back the biggest name in your company. Do you remember, and I brought this up as an example about 3-4 weeks ago. Do you remember when WCW and ECW, the Alliance, was trying to take over the WWF? Vince McMahon really needed Steve Austin to be that guy, to help WWF prevail. That's what MJF should have been for Tony Khan. To disrupt and stop what the Young Bucks were doing after what they did to the boss. MJF was returning. Why didn't Tony Khan in storyline bring MJF back to take down the Elite? He just showed up, gave a nut shot to Adam Cole, who's still fucked up, and then he's fighting whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. This guy, remember, the triple B means everything to me. The triple B, the triple B, the triple fucking B, the triple B, the triple B, the triple fucking B means everything to me. The triple B, the triple B, the triple B. He comes back and it's whoosh. Daniel Garcia and a nut shot to Adam Cole. You could see it a mile away that he wasn't coming back because Tony brought him back to take care and be that leader. So he turns heel, even though he was always the devil. And then it's going to get confusing because Adam Cole sooner or later is going to come back, and Adam Cole is a heel, and he's the devil. He's the demon, whatever you want to call it. And then how do you cross those paths again? Do you go back to the skits? Do you go back to comedy? Because it was the highest ratings? Remember what I said last week, guys? Up until this week, MJF opened every episode of Dynamite. Maybe some of you didn't tune in last week. Every episode of Dynamite that MJF was on since he's been back, he was the opening quarter. There was no other episode, there was no other quarter that he was on Dynamite. Up until this week, every Dynamite, he was in that opening quarter. Why? Because of the Big Bang lead-ins, and that's a guarantee that MJF will most likely be the highest rated segment of the night. Do not have him open hour 2. Do not have him close out hour 2, because the way that their ratings go down, there's a very good chance that MJF could be, the haters online and the bots still rip that apart. MJF is not even a draw anymore. So we'll inflate it falsely by doing that. So now he turns, and I personally think because they already blew their load with Will Ospreay and Swerve at Forbidden Door, I think that there is a very good possibility that MJF takes on Swerve at Wembley. I think because Swerve is pretty much a babyface now, de facto, That's why you had MJF turn heel, because I think ultimately MJF and Swerve are going to cross paths. I think that's kind of the way you have to go. And by doing that, you kind of also dodge him going up against the Elite, blood and guts. You know, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And MJF could go back to being that asshole that, you know, I just do whatever I feel like doing. You know, that's why I think that Triple B, that's got to get brought in quickly. Now, to answer Jimmy's question about ratings, people who tuned into Dynamite this week did not know they were going to get a really good show. So I've always said this since the 90s. Sometimes some of the best episodes of Raw do shit numbers, and some of the worst episodes of Raw do great numbers. You know, when you tune in, you know, there's not many of you out there that tune into a wrestling show and then tune out because of one or two shitty segments. You might channel surf a little bit, but if you're going to watch Raw, if you're planning to watch SmackDown or even NXT, AEW, you know, chances are you're going to be tuning in for the majority of the night. So no one knew that AEW's episode was going to be as good as it was. Was it perfect? No. No episode of anything is perfect. But I'll say this. They just came off of Forbidden Door. The rating for Wednesday is the same, pretty much the same rating they did last week, which was the go home with Forbidden Door with a whole bunch of CMLL and New Japan guys on the card. 2 weeks ago, before the 502 rating, they did 682, I think it was. They did 682, 502, 680, and 688. So their new norm has been about 685. So they've been doing that with Japanese and CMLL talent on their screen. Now, most of them are gone. So it's going to take time. You got to build that relationship. You got to build on last week's episode. That's what AEW does miserably wrong. They never seem to really build from the week before. You'll have the same people on next week. Oh, Mercedes has something to say, and it'll be a pre-recorded backstage segment. It doesn't feel like it advanced from the week before. Just because somebody's on 2 weeks ago in a row doesn't mean it feels like it's advanced. You see Solo Sikoa tonight? That was a big advancement from the week prior. You see interaction with wrestlers. It is an advancement from the week prior. Next week with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, whatever goes down between them two is going to be a big advancement from the week prior. What AEW needs to do this week on Dynamite is build on what happened last week. Don't just put the same people on the show. Oh, Swerve is going to return. Yay! All right, it's got to be more than just returning and having random person come out and confront him. You have to have it feel like it is a continuation from the week before, a continuation. They do that within a few weeks, they should be back over the sevens. You know, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. You cannot listen to these people online, even if AEW this coming Wednesday does 800,000. Even if they did 800,000, you know, when people are like, oh, they're back to normal. Oh, things are right again. 1 week is not the answer. 1 week is not the answer. Look, I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding profusely. 502, I'm bleeding badly. Oh, I'm back to 680. I'm still bleeding. Now I'm at 688. I'm still bleeding. Oh, I did 800. The bleeding stopped. But you still see that there's a raw wound there. It's going to take a lot of weeks and a lot of healing. I watched a bunch of AEW Dynamite on social media this week because it was enough that I was intrigued to see. I thought Hangman did a great job. Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker went a little bit long, but if AEW is finally going to commit to Mercedes being a heel, it's going to work, man. She did interviews, and she threw her husband under the bus. She threw her fucking husband under the bus. She's acting like this major conceited And then Tony Khan, she's the greatest wrestler of all. If they're playing this cocky, conceited heel that I'll even trash my own husband, she is going to be fucking hated. But I guarantee you, AEW, listen, nobody condones this, but I see debris hitting that ring, garbage being thrown at her. She's definitely, listen, anything you see Mercedes doing right now, when she's doing interviews, like people like, oh, she's acting ungrateful. She's acting like conceited. Oh, God forbid she has to work. Oh, she's doing a fucking job right now. She's fucking giving that impression that she, outside the AEW ring, she's the same conceited, greedy bitch as she is in that ring. Notice how it's no more about being an inspiration and a role model and this and that, and everything is cake and ice cream. And oh, look, butterflies. Nah, she's being I don't want to use the C word, but it rhymes with hunt. It rhymes with brother runt. She's being one of those right now, and she's doing a damn good job with it. So I'm a little concerned that Britt Baker had a mini stroke. That's concerning, especially at that age. Especially like, where did it happen? How did it happen? You know, was she doing something strenuous? Did she just sitting around? Mini stroke is no joke. I had a friend of mine who had a mini stroke, and, you know, he seemed fine. You know, he's still alive. I mean, he's, you know, but he's, you know, we're older now, so we're not really athletic. You know, like me running after the ice cream truck is probably the most running I do for the whole year. But there would be times that he would talk and have a little slur for a little second, or he'll get that Joe Biden moment that'll be like just for a split second. And by the way, I shouldn't be revealing this now, but seriously, I love you guys, so we like to joke on these shows. If these whack jobs continue saying that the Liv Morgan's uncomfortable advances on Dominic Mysterio makes people feel like it's play on Vince McMahon and Janelle Grant, if they're going to continue putting Vince and Janelle in the same sentence of Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio, then I am going to start going political. And I'm going to say that R-Truth's character is loosely based on Joe Biden. That if you're going to do a Joe Biden documentary in 2024, R-Truth should be the one to do it. If people saw my Twitter yesterday, I wished everybody Happy Canada Day. And I put a picture of R-Truth on there. Because R-Truth's whole character is he gets everything fucking wrong. R-Truth puts on his baseball cleats and he goes bowling. You know, he gets chopsticks and he has eggplant parmesan. So I'm telling you, R-Truth, I want R-Truth to play the part for Joe Biden. I want Joe Biden proclaims himself that he's going to nominate himself for the 2024 Parliament. All right. Thank you, Jimmy. I always think of Goodfellas. I hope everybody had a good 4th of July. Me, you can't really see it. My hands are all swollen and they're all cut. I don't know if you can really see it all that well, especially these over here. I didn't finger an alligator or anything like that. My refrigerator freezer stopped really giving out a lot of coolness, and I had a whole ton of ice buildup. And I have my freezer for about 10 years. I never defrosted it. So Wednesday, I decided I was going to defrost my freezer. And I don't know if anybody's ever defrosted their freezer before, but you know that metal mesh thing in the back? I was hitting it with my fist, trying to loosen up the ice. And because it was so cold, my fist was numb. I didn't realize I'm banging it inside metal. And after I was done, I was like, oh, I fixed it. But now I got 50 cuts on my fingers right now. My hands are killing me. So yesterday, 4th of July, I just pretty much chilled all day long. So I put on Twitter a video of my dogs. They were kind of annoyed at the 4th of July. I thought they were going to be scared. This was their first experience with fireworks. Bella is only, 7, 8 months old, and Bruno's only 4 months old. 3 months old, and fireworks went off, and they were just like, end this shit already. They were just bored. So, all right, let's answer some more questions. Who sent this earlier? Shout out to Julius Tillery. Julius, can't wait for you and Kev to talk about the WrestleMania 40 documentary. People think we're crazy for saying Roman and Cody was the plan all along. I don't want to add to what I said earlier because I'm going to repeat myself. At Dream 101 is going to have an aneurysm. Everybody else, I don't blame you all. Listen, I'll tell you this, just to sneak peek for Monday. You know, we took a lot of notes and took a lot of screenshots. And we also lined up a lot of dates from last year and a lot of things that people forgot. Like I said, the Brian Gerwitz interview spurt that he did in the summer of last year was kind of bizarre. This was like 2 months before The Rock made his return. And a lot of the conversation was about The Rock returning. And he was like, you know, I don't see The Rock returning during the writer's strike, but never say never. And, you know, I can't see The Rock has wrestled this final match and this and that. These motherfuckers knew exactly what was going on. They knew exactly what was going on. Listen, these guys are the experts. They are the top of the top. Whether you like AEW more than WWE, and that is cool with me, I don't have any issue with that. These are entertainers. These are experts. These are the top of what they do. This is why they make the money that they do. This is why they generate the money that they do. You know, if you just take a step back and you say, listen, if I did the Cliff Notes version of it, I say this to all of you. Who was Cody going to face at WrestleMania 40 if Roman took on The Rock and Seth Rollins took on CM Punk? Who was Cody going to face? Every AEW fan out there would have said, ha, he left AEW to go to WWE for 2 years. They built this story. They were talking about Dusty and hard times and finished the story. And I'm doing this for Dad and I'm doing this for all of you. And you got to walk with me and be there with me and this and that. And they stuck their finger up his ass and gave him the enema of a lifetime. Cody's career in the WWE would have been severely damaged from it. Who is Cody going to face at WrestleMania 40 after 2 years of build? When he pointed at Roman Reigns and the cameraman is sitting right on the side of Roman, you think, let me put it this way. If Roman is over there, do you think Cody was over there? Cody was here. Seth. Seth was here and Roman was here. And when you see Cody pointing this way, they could have put the camera on Seth Rollins and they could have put on his earpiece, Seth, act like, or Cody Rhodes, Michael Cole could have made it seem confusing. I mean, there's so much, but like I said, I'd love for people to tell me, who is Cody going to face at WrestleMania after 2 years of build and the history of the Royal Rumble? The history of the Royal Rumble. The winner of the Royal Rumble picks the champion of their choice. If it was going to be CM Punk and Seth Rollins, who was Cody going to face? There was an elimination chamber. Even if CM Punk was healthy, what would you have done? Elimination Chamber was right around the corner. What would you have done? When they've realized that CM Punk got seriously injured, you'd think suddenly, all of a sudden, oh, we got Rock. Oh, Rock. Oh, my God. Perfect timing. We'll have fun Monday. Trust me, we'll have fun. But again, I'll say this last thing. Please, guys, it's not about right and wrong. It's about just enjoying this shit. Just enjoy it. This is their job, to make us believe what we're watching is real. Just, no, man, just enjoy it. Seriously. I'm enjoying the shit out of it. Because I can't wait for the WrestleMania 41 documentary when that comes out next year. I just wish that they would have profiled everybody else. Because how many matches were at Mania? 20? 16? Whatever it was? You know, it was more than just 2. And I would have liked to have seen a lot of effort put in for some of the other wrestlers as well. And, you know, it just feels like it's matter of fact. So thank you for that. Bernard with 10 spot. What's up, Bernard? Not naming any names, but I lost all respect for the podcast scene during the It's Not a Work Cody thing, especially the New York boys when they knew better. Thank you and Kev for keeping it real. Listen, I think I know who you're talking about. Do not get upset at anybody. Seriously. I'm not even upset at like the Dave LaGreca's or the Sam Roberts or any of them, you know, because this is their job. You know, when I was on Monty and the Pharaoh, and I really hope all of you by now have seen my appearance there, they made me feel like $1 million there. And I revealed a lot of things about me that I never even said before. But, you know, during that, when they were telling me, reminding me and, you know, kind of, you know, enlightening me how much that Dave LaGreca has copied me and Kev over the years, which is mind-boggling because now people are bringing me a whole bunch of examples and it's on a weird territory. But, you know, they asked me if what Busted Open does is kind of what Vince Russo does with that shock, you know, the way he puts the stuff out there. And I said, no, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. They will still act as if wrestling is real. And that's why Undertaker goes on Busted Open. That's why Cody goes on Busted Open. That's why a lot of wrestlers go on Busted Open. Because they know, I don't want to bite off of Vince Russo, the pros are the pros. They know that everybody there will wink, wink, and not say anything that kind of like goes against the intent. Listen, WWE is an entertainment company. Like Triple H said, they're a show that talks about a sport. They're an entertainment about sport. So they know when they go there that everybody there knows what WWE is, and they're not going to start talking about storylines and, you know, getting real explicit. Like I said, when Rock did what he did, if you want to have a shot, look at the fans in the crowd, the ones that are trying to get on TV. Trying to think of Captain Obvious. Somebody turned heel recently. Somebody turned on someone. Trying to remember who. It was probably like 3-4 months ago. But somebody turned. Oh, I know. Oh, here's a good one. Carmelo Hayes turns on Trick Williams. We were like waiting for that for a year. So Carmelo Hayes turns on Trick Williams, and you look at some of the people in the NXT crowd, and they're like this. We've seen podcasters that are almost as old as me getting flashed in the crowd, and they see something, they're like, and really, if you listen closely, this is what you would have heard. Are you looking at me? Is the camera? Trying to get on TV, acting like it's real. I didn't expect it. This is what they are. That's what I'm not. You know, put it this way, when Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio make out, I'm not going to sit here and go, ooh, Dominic, you're in trouble. Wait till you get home. No pussy for you tonight. Ooh. Or better yet, I'll put on a red pink robe, call myself Dave, and when Liv makes out with Dominic, I'm not going to sit there and go, ooh, wait till Rhea sees that while she's intimate with Buddy Matthews. That's the difference. Don't be mad at any of these hosts that go along with it or don't go along with it. Just understand that that's what some people do. It's what some people do. Come on. Am I lying? You know, when Liv and Dom, if they do have that makeout moment, you're going to see people in the media world acting as if this shit is 100% real. It's all good. All right. Let's see. Are we up to date with super shout outs? I think we are. All right. How long we've gone? We've gone 80 minutes already. Tonight, Piper Niven, another failed opportunity with Bayley. Obviously, this was done more to just give Bayley a match right before Money in the Bank since she's not on it. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill beating Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Let me tell you something, brother. Jade Cargill looked great tonight. And I'm not just talking about this. She looked great in the ring. That fucking kick that she hit Candice LeRae, and the camera angle of it, she looked great tonight. There's going to be growing pains with Jade Cargill. It's not just growing pains in the ring, but it's going to be growing pains up here as well. She's going to get numb to the IWC. You know, she is going to have her moments in the ring because she's still learning. In fact, you never stop learning, but she's definitely they're taking their time. You know, they won the match tonight and they called out Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, say, keep those belts warm for us. You know, will they have a rematch at SummerSlam? Very possible. Could we see a fallout between Bianca and Jade? That's possible too, although I don't see it. But Doctor says Don Tony is word. I appreciate that. Thank you. Hope you're not into like hip hop, because not to change subjects, but what's up with this theme song for Money in the Bank? What is it called? Tap by Nav. I think Meek Mill is on there as well. I know right now some homeboys that are watching the show like, this motherfucker is talking about Meek Mill and Nav. How does he even know those names? I listened to that song and I looked up the lyrics. The lyrics is all about like, it's fun. I mean, the way I read it, it's about, you know, like whacking people and getting laid. And I'm just like picturing like WWE creative and like, hey, we got to come up with, I could see doing it for NXT Heatwave, you know, because NXT has been more, you know, emphasis on, you know, the black talents. And listen, that's not me saying it. That is a fucking boatload of people saying it. People brought it up to me on Patreon. I was like, you know, I didn't even really notice that. Then I went online and I saw all this, you know, these social media platforms that, you know, are very, you know, emphasis on black, you know, talents. And they were pointing it out. And then I looked at websites that have nothing to do with wrestling. And they're like, WWE's really pushing a lot of black talent now. And they brought up NXT. And I was like, holy shit. When I look at it, I was like, wow, you look at everybody. I mean, it's pretty impressive. But I hear this song and I'm like, Money in the Bank. And I'm reading it. And it's like, I don't know, man. And that song is like several years old, if I remember correctly. I listened to that song and I'm not even going to do it on this show because I'll piss people off. I listened to it and I was listening to this song on my computer before and my wife was like, what are you listening to? I says, the Money in the Bank theme song. And she's listening to it and all I hear is, whack, whack, whack. And I was like... It sounded like a duck. I was like in the back going, yeah, and like, you know, mess with me and you'll get whack, whack, whack. And I'm like, you know, put me in a bathtub and go quack, quack, quack. I was making fun of that song. That song sucks. Sorry for saying it, but that song sucks. I just, but it's better than Pitbull and the other guy. Who's the other guy I always make fun of? You ever read their lyrics? I can't understand how you make $50 million and you read the lyrics is, you know I want you. You know you want me. I know I want you. You know you want me. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. I know you want me. You know I want you. And it's just like repeating the same thing over and over again. Like, you got $50 fucking million for that. VJ, what's up, VJ? VJ, thank you for being a member of the Made Men and Women here. 14 months, man. Thank you for that. He says, VJ, I am amazed at how the Chad Gable Alpha Academy have become the second most intriguing storyline in the WWE. Hope you're well, DT. And thank you. Hey, thank you. Thank you. They're also the third most highest rated segments of Raw. 2 weeks ago, they were the highest. And last week, they were the second highest. By the way, I don't have Raw ratings in front of me, but we brought it up last week. It's only fair to bring it up this week. Last week, we brought up a point about Bo Dallas that nobody brought up because don't you dare say anything negative about Wyatt Six right now. Don't you dare. Bo Dallas's segment last week, rating went down 450,000. And that wasn't just because of Karrion Kross versus Kofi Kingston, because that was only 2 minutes of the quarter. This week, WWE is very smart. They had the opening quarter with Nikki Cross giving another VHS tape to Michael Cole. The second Bo Dallas Uncle Howdy video was in hour 2 instead of hour 3. This week, it only went down about 60,000 viewers. Now, I know what you're going to say. Wow, it went down again? Well, out of fairness, the quarter before the Bo Dallas Uncle Howdy segment this week was Seth Rollins and Damian Priest and Gunther. So, you know, that is a very important part of Raw. But it went down, but only about 60,000 viewers. So you really, when you have 1.8 million, it's not any big deal. So this week they kept the viewership. So I hope this Monday on Raw, they attack Jey Uso and Chad Gable because they're having a match. Or at minimum, do a segment and tell us why Joe Gacy's in this group, why Nikki Cross is in this group. Why? Because remember the whole storyline. You've been lied to. WWE lied to them. They are set free. They've been mistreated. You know, these characters were not mistreated. The wrestlers were mistreated. We need to understand why they are doing what they're doing. You can't have Michael Cole still 2 weeks in a row, this carry-like woman. And by the way, I know I brought it up Monday, but I'll say it again here. What's with the security guards passed out on the desk? What is that? The lights go out. Nikki Cross gives a box, and for 2 weeks in a row, you got a security guard on each side laying on the desk. What does she smell? Like, why are they laid out? It's goofy. It's like a bad Star Trek episode. Seriously, you remember the old Star Trek episodes where there'd be like a poison gas and your lights go back on and there's a whole bunch of people unconscious? That's what it looks like to me. It looks like bad Star Trek. Triple X. Shout out to you, my friend. Long time, DT. Only thing I love your show for is the humorous jokes. I perceive your New York style humor. Are you good at roasting people? Do I roast? The only thing I roast is chickens. I don't intentionally be funny. Truth be told, little personal fact about me, I was not a funny guy in school. I was not a funny guy that would tell jokes. If I told jokes, I would do Rodney Dangerfield jokes. Even when I did my first indie wrestling appearance, I played the footage here a while back. First indie wrestling appearance, I managed Abdullah the Butcher, and that turned into a disaster. And then I turned on Louis Ramos and I stapled money to his head. And if people remember that night, people were ragging me at ringside. You know, like, you're fat, you suck, you're horrible, this and that. I never did anything on camera before. I looked at them and I had flashbacks of Rodney Dangerfield jokes when I was in school. I looked at this guy like, you're so ugly, you can't even get a girl wet if you throw her in a pool. I just started throwing dumb jokes. And people were laughing at it, but Like I wasn't trying to be like that kind of funny. But I was never funny in school. I don't know. I can't explain it. So if I'm funny now, at least I don't have to show like my tensions or my sagging tits or, my pot belly. Thank God I don't have to show any of that. But in school, if I wanted to get attention, see, I don't have pencils anymore. I don't think a pencil has been in my house in like 15 years. But I would sit at my desk and I would break pencils over my head. And people would laugh at that. Or people would just make fun of me and I would laugh at it. I brought this up on Patreon a few times. Somebody asked me last week, what kind of sneakers did I wear when I grew up? My parents always bought me Pumas, which is legit truth. But when Adidas came out in the 80s, or when Adidas really got famous in the 80s, because Run DMC wore Adidas, in school, we used to say Adidas stood for All Day I Dream About Sex. And a lot of my other friends said Adidas stood for Anthony de Blasio is dumb and stupid. So I was just the brunt of a lot of jokes. So if I'm funny, I don't know where it came from. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a funny guy. Outside of the shows, I'm not funny. Like I'm annoying funny, but I appreciate it though. But no, I don't roast. Seriously. Thank you, XXX. Welcome back, by the way. I haven't seen you in a while. Bernard would like to know, and thank you, Bernard, for the super chat. Does Mayor Eric Adams make you miss de Blasio? Mayor Adams makes me miss. Oh, God. I fucking hate New York. I hate New York. I just hate government, man. I hate government. I hate politics. I don't like Trump anymore. I don't like Biden. I don't like Eric Adams. My father voted for Eric Adams. My father hung out with Eric Adams. I've showed pictures here. My father hung out with Eric Adams. My father also hung out with Curtis Lewa, who ran up against Eric Adams, Guardian Angels. I told you all this story, right? My father drove Curtis Lewa home like 6 months ago, some apartment in the city. And apparently he's this like massive cat lover. My father said he walked in the house, there was cats everywhere and it smelled like cat shit. And he's like, my father was with 3 other people and they drove Curtis Lewa home. And he's like, you want to come in? You want to have a drink? And they go in the house. And my father said, it smelled like cat shit. So apparently Curtis Lewa, just a little random tidbit. So I don't like Eric Adams. I didn't like de Blasio. What I hated about de Blasio is everybody thought I was related to him. Every time because my last name is de Blasi. Just take the O off of it. Like Spaghetti O's? Like I'm Spaghetti and he's Spaghetti O. I'm de Blasi, he's de Blasio. I can't tell you how many people I hope you're not related to the mayor. I was like, you fucking kidding me? Hell no. Seriously. Thank God my last name wasn't Trump. My God, or Trumpo. We don't like Eric Adams. We think Eric Adams is two-faced. That's what it is. So, I don't know, Bernard, if you live in New York or not. You don't have to answer that, but yeah, Eric Adams is not very popular here. T. Smitty, 3,000. Thank you for the 5-spot, T. Smitty. Hope all is well, DT. If Jay Cargill asked you for advice, what would you tell her? Keep up the great work. My advice to Jay Cargill is ignore the IWC. Accept the support and accept the honest criticism, but ignore the hate. Because there's people out there that will just crap on people just because their lives are miserable, just because they want to criticize everything. For some reason, they take, leaving AEW personally. I saw today Ethan Page is getting ripped apart because Ethan Page said he left a company that is very, very disorganized and a mess, and he went to WWE and it's a well-oiled machine, and there's people out there that want to castrate him. And I'm like, some people like to work for an organized company. Some people like to show up having to wear a suit and tie. And some people like to show up with a t-shirt and jeans and relaxed. Ethan Page is no more wrong than Will Ospreay is. If Will Ospreay wants to show up with sweatpants and a hat, oh, this is how I dress, mate. Well, you dress like, sloppy, mate. Oh, but this is how we dress, mate. Good. You still look very, very unprofessional and sloppy, mate. But if that's what makes you happy and AEW allows it, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the way Will Ospreay dresses, but don't defend yourself. This is the way I dress, mate. Well, guess what? I walk around my apartment with no underwears on. Like, just because that's how you dress or that makes you comfortable. My wife went for a big job interview 2 days ago, and it's all formal dress, no dress down Fridays. If she gets this job, I got to take her shopping because, she's got to get new clothes. So she chooses this environment because she likes that professional environment. Not everybody likes that. Some people like organization. Again, I don't have any issue with AEW being disorganized, but just because Ethan Page says, look, that place is all, disorganized and WWE's a well-oiled machine and very, very organized, fine. Not everybody likes that. Not everybody that works in the WWE wants to show up, well-dressed and, you got to be here by 5. Can't be late, Yeah, some people don't like rules. So, honestly, Jade Cargill, accept some criticism because people want to see you improve. I use Karrion Kross as a great example. He's a friend of Kev and I. He supported us before he ever got into wrestling. And if you tune into us weekly, we will criticize a little bit here and there of what he's involved in. Because we want him to be better. In our view as a fan, we are giving legitimate reasons why we don't like him with AOP. We don't think it makes sense. We wish this happened, this, that. We're not crapping on the guy. We're not crapping on his story. We're just giving our honest criticisms as a fan. It's an opinion. There's going to be a lot of fans out there that will criticize Jade Cargill because they want to see her get better. They don't want her to get this mindset that, no, everything is fine. Everything is great. That is one of the problems AEW has built for 4 years. While there was glaring signs of problems, you had a very, very explicit group of people online that, no, everything is great. Everything is epic. Complete with emojis and every other word was capitalized. And AEW looked at that like, look at all these people. Like, they said everything is great. The haters are bots. And now their viewership is down 33% from 2 years ago. Their attendance is down 40% from last year. And a lot of those people that were writing in emojis last year that, everything is fine, everything is great, it's epic, it's amazing, it's the greatest wrestling I've ever seen. Now you got a lot of those people that think, I'm here to fix AEW. Motherfucker, you're the reason why part of it is the problem. So Jade has got to accept criticism, but she's got to have the wherewithal to know who is being sincere about it and who is just being an asshole. So, but she just stays focused, she'll do fine. That's what I would say. If she stays focused, she'll do just fine. Dream would like to know, does anyone make fun of us for doing shows? Who for? I don't know. Well, as far as I can only speak on behalf of Kevin and I, make fun of us doing shows? No, not really anymore. I mean, sometimes some people will call us old. Honestly, that bothered me maybe 5 years ago. It doesn't bother me anymore. I mean, we listen, I've seen tonight quite a few of you saying that the shows Kevin and I have been doing, especially over the last couple of months, some of the best we've ever done. We've been doing it pretty much for the better part of 20 years. And I've been doing this shit since 97, 27 years. Tonight, for some reason, there was a lot of conversation about Big Boss Man in 1999, feeding Al Snow his dog Pepper, getting hung in a cage, driving a car with Big Show's dad in the coffin. And I was already doing my hotline for 2 years when that shit went down. So yes, I am old. But honestly, no one really makes fun of us anymore. If we get anything, people call us old, but I'm like, whatever. It doesn't bother us. It really doesn't. All right. OTS Tribal Queen. How about the dumbasses that stated AEW would be well over 1 million on Dynamite? No sweat. I don't listen to those people. They want the quick fix. When it went from 502 back to 680, I saw a whole bunch of people like, oh, they're back to normal. I'm like, back to normal? Like, since when is 680 normal? People will focus on demos. Yeah, but the demo. Yeah, but this. Yeah, but this. No. I don't listen to those people. The people that say, oh, over 1 million, those are the people that are in the fantasy world. Those are people that are smoking some good shit. I don't pay attention to those people. I think if AEW starts building each week as a continuation of the week prior, see what truly is getting a good response online and not immediately write it off as bots and WWE, supporters and AEW haters. If they start doing that, little by little, they'll start building their viewers. And please stop with MJF opening up Dynamites because it's the highest rated quarter of the night. If Solo Sikoa, listen, if the tag title match in Solo Sikoa opened up SmackDown tonight, I guarantee you there would be enough people that probably would have turned it off after 15 to 30 minutes saying, I don't really want to see Piper versus Bayley. I don't want to really see Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell in action. Some people would turn it off. I think you got to build throughout the night. I hate comparing it to sex, and I'll be G-rated this time. But if you're going to have an hour's worth of fun, you don't want to have an orgasm 5 minutes in. Then for the last 55 minutes, you're kind of like, I got to do what I got to do because I promised an hour. You want to build. You when it's 5 minutes to close and you want to finish up and it's let's take this home. You want to lay there after an hour and you want to be like this. You do that in 5 minutes, I guarantee your significant other, when you get into arguments, you can't even last 5 minutes. That's what AEW needs to do. There's not a lot that they need to do to fix. Stop with this obsession with things like MJF or big matches have to open up the show. If you're good, they will come, whether it's 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. Jimmy Fingers. Thank you, Jimmy. DT, was there ever a point that I actually thought AEW had potential when they first launched? Sure. They still have potential. AEW is nowhere in the league of WWE. They're not. It's just not the case. It's like, I don't know, like a Sonic. It's like comparing Sonic to McDonald's. And I know that's a really bad comparison, but, I'm not saying that AEW is this, but, they're in the same profession. But I think, you know what? I think Eric Bischoff came up with the best analogy I heard this week. Eric Bischoff is like, just because you sell steak doesn't mean if there's a Ruth Chris Steakhouse 2 blocks away that you're in competition with Ruth Chris Steakhouse. If I sell steakums, just because I sell steak and Ruth Chris sells steak doesn't mean that I am in competition with Ruth Chris. We just both happen to sell steak. Theirs just happens to be prime rib of filet mignon and mine is a sandwich steak. You know, that's the thing. I mean, I think AEW can be comfortable. Look, NWA is still around. TNA is still around. And I guarantee you, TNA is making a hell of a lot less money than AEW does. Sure, Tony Khan is throwing out hundreds of millions. But the thing is, you know, they definitely are, you know, they can have a comfortable future. It's just that they're owned by a billionaire who's not hungry. He's not hungry. It's like Tony Khan is like if you came home and you opened up your closet and every shelf is potato chips, and you open up your freezer and every shelf is ice cream, and you open up your refrigerator and every shelf on your refrigerator is cake and milk. And everywhere you walk in your house, there's nothing but cake, ice cream, everything you absolutely love. You're not hungry. And you have everything at your beck and call. There's no sense of hungriness. That's why the guaranteed contracts that he did, although very, very admirable during COVID, you know, if I'm a lowly person on that roster, I could sit back and say, hey, I'm good for 3 years. You know, whatever I do, I'm guaranteed for 3 years. You know, I'll light a fire under my ass 2 months before contract expiration. You look at WWE, you know, some of these wrestlers are like, hey, if I don't fucking deliver, I'm going to lose my job. And that's why some people cry hysterical. No, I'm not making fun of Cameron Grimes and others, but that's why some people cry. They're bawling their eyes out when they get released because they're hungry and they're frustrated and they can't do anything about it. You know, the hunger is not there. It's like if Tony wants to have a slice of pizza at 3 o'clock in the morning, hey, push a button, the pizza is there. If I want to have ice cream right now, like 24/7, he's content. So whether he makes 50 million or loses 50 million, peanuts, you know, so they're definitely a legit company and they definitely could grow. But when you have that kind of coin, he's more concerned about happiness than about profitability. You know, and that's something that I've said for a few years. And honestly, you know, there's going to be a day that Tony Khan dies, might not be for 50 years. There's going to be a day that Tony Khan is no longer, you know, in charge of AEW. And trust me, unless, you know, Shad Khan takes over or another billionaire heiress or heir from his family takes over, if a real company takes over that company, you think Warner Media, if they have a financial stake in Warner Media, you think they're going to turn around and say, we could lose 50 million. We got 5 trillion. We could lose 50 million. No big deal. Peanuts. We're happy. You know, our favorites are on TV. No, you can't do that. So as long as he's got that kind of money, there's no stress of urgency, that company will be the way where it is right now. That's why, you know, every time you read a lot of the elite media, they'll say, oh, Warner Media is happy with AEW. AEW feels their numbers are fine. AEW sees there's nothing wrong right now. They actually are in line with what they expect. Oh, okay. All right. So when they draw shit numbers, we shouldn't be concerned. Everything is fine. If it walks like a duck, sounds like a duck, smells like a duck, and sounds like a duck, chances are it's a duck. Even though they'll tell you that it's, you know, it's not a duck. Thank you, Nero Fay. He's been a member of our family here, a channel member family and our regular family for 3 years and a month. Can't believe it's been that long doing this shit here. I mean, yeah, I've been doing it since 97, but still, it kind of still feels like we just started doing video not too long ago. He's celebrating 37 months as a channel member. I really appreciate that, man. Yes, bring the... Just one like this, I feel a lump. Not kidding, too. You see it? There's like a ball over here. Still got hair. Bring the hostages home. Yeah. I want to see good news coming out of there. It's just... It's awful what I see what's going on over there. Between Israel, Palestine, vice versa, even here in New York, seeing like, you know, some protesters. There's some protesters that really want to see peace. And there's people there that just want to disrupt. And you got to see some of the shit that goes on over here. And the problem is you don't want to get involved with it because then you don't want to turn into a scene. You know, trust me when I tell you, the most dangerous thing that you could do, even if you're just trying to do the right thing, is get someone to record only half of the truth. My God, see some people's lives getting ruined over here. You know, I'll tell you all a very, very, very quick story. Very quick story. My father went to Home Depot about 9 months ago. Went to Home Depot, and I don't remember what the product was, but Home Depot sold some type of item. Oh, I know what it was. It was, I think, a Japanese or Chinese, like, lucky tree. I don't remember the name of the tree. It's not a money tree, but Home Depot was selling some type of a tree, little tree, that apparently, or plant, that a lot of Chinese or Japanese people keep in their house for good luck. So my father went to Home Depot and had saw it there and put it in his cart and was buying a few other things. And he went online and he had said to someone online about what he was told about the tree. And someone happened to be standing there that was Asian. And I guess didn't hear the whole conversation. And he thought that my father was mocking what the tree was about and everything like that. And my father like looked at the guy. He's like, if I'm making fun of it, why would I be buying it? So they got into words. And I swear on God, my father turned around. He told us after the fact. He turned around and he looked, and there was 3 other people with their phones like this. They were ready to record some type of incident. And my father, as soon as he saw that, my father just closed his mouth, didn't say anything else, let the Asian guy just keep ranting the way he was. And my father just paid for his stuff and he left. And my father said afterwards, he said, even though my father was right, if they record only half of it and my father's schooling this guy and telling him off, that shows up on the internet. Karen, look, white guy, belittling Asian guy. That's little thing like that, you're fried. You're fried, man. So my father, very, very smart. And my father wasn't doing anything wrong. Legit. So, Dream 101 wants to know, any update on the old man who showed up at my house? Yes, he went to my office today. I really don't want to tell the whole story here because people will get mad, but I have a customer who lost his wife last year. A lot of you may remember last year I said I went to his funeral, to the wife's funeral. I've been helping the guy a little bit here and there because he's in his 80s and, you know, he has a little problem with his TV. He doesn't know how to like set up YouTube, and I helped him connect to the internet. I helped him connect his printer. And the guy's like starting to rely on me a little bit. And I'm married and I got 2 sick parents and I got my regular life. So I can't be at this guy's beck and call. So the guy started calling my cell phone, blowing it up 20, 30 times. I don't answer. I don't want to be bothered. I'm home. I want to have dinner with my wife. I want to relax and everything. And the fucking guy showed up at my house. I'm giving the very short version of it, but the guy showed up at my house. And, he wanted me to help him with something, and I ended up helping him. But my wife is like, why do you have customers showing up at your house? So I ignored him all weekend. He wanted me to take him to the hospital on Tuesday because he said he had chest pains. And I told him, call 911. He's like, no, they won't take me to the hospital I want to go to. I said, I can't take you. I'm not home. And the guy got really, really pissed off. So today he showed up at my office and he said he went to the hospital and they checked him out and they said he was okay. And I said, you see, it's stress. I said, you got to take it easy. I said, if you run into a problem, take a step back and, the problem will get fixed. And, he was in my office for about 5-10 minutes. And I said, look, I didn't call you. I said, I have my phone off. I was doing my shit with my freezer. I showed him my hand, so he saw I definitely hurt myself. And he left. I didn't hear from him today. Thank God. But there's always tomorrow. If you're a member of our Patreon family or a channel member, go check out this Tuesday's Patreon show that I did. Episode 288, I think it is, or 289. Go listen to the story. It's right at the beginning of the show. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. If I wasn't married and he was like a 40-year-old chick, semi-attractive, it'd be a different story. This is an 80-some-odd-year-old shriveled up old man. It's just annoying the shit out of me. So, nice guy, but pain in the ass. Thank God he's not a wrestling fan. If he heard this show, he'd probably ring my bell right now to kick my ass. Bernard, thank you for the 20 spot, Bernard. Much appreciated. Thank you. Maybe I'm out of touch, but indie AEW wrestling does nothing for me. I can't get behind no selling when everyone is Hogan. Someone told me you've never been in a real fight, adrenaline numb. Oh, you've never been in a real fight that adrenaline numbs pain. I'll take Kurt Angle any day. One of the things, what's interesting? I just realized something. I'm going to bring up something that's going to kind of, I think everybody tuning in, if you've ever watched AEW, this is going to kind of blow your mind. I guarantee you a majority of you will be like, holy shit. Holy shit. Ready for this? This just came to mind based on what Bernard said. What was one of the biggest complaints that we had about AEW for like the first 2 or 3 years? The referees didn't enforce the rules. We used to make fun of Aubrey Edwards. People would be doing illegal shit and she'd be there looking like a surfer, going like this. Like she's Elaine Seinfeld dancing. We used to talk about how no one enforced the rules. So when nobody enforces the rules, there are no rules, so that was our biggest complaint. If you remember, week in and week out, we used to always talk about Rick Knox and all these other, but the fact that we know all these referees by name means something. And they never enforced rules. And it was just so much like chaos and, just a mess. It was like it's like a shopping cart that only fits like 40 groceries and you try to throw 100 groceries in there. Like you're just throwing shit in there, just trying to fill up the cart because it's almost like you remember, anybody remember, was it Grocery Games? Was that the name of the game show where you had like 60 seconds and you got to fill up your cart? Didn't they do an episode of Married with Children with that? And it was Al Bundy and the neighbor, Marcy. They were up and down the like you got to fill up your cart with as many groceries as you can in a certain amount of time. That's what AEW feels like a lot of times. No rules, no dress code, no, management, no, enforcing stuff. I'm telling you, it's like summer camp. It's like Fantasy Island. It's like, it's almost, what it's kind of like? WWE is like having to go to school from September until June. And then from June until September, you go to AEW. School's out. You want to rip your uniform off. You want to just wear whatever you want. You want to go smoke and go by the beach and hang out all day and play video games and fucking do nothing. Sleep until 5 p.m. Eat whatever you want. Drink whatever you want. You don't want to shower for a week. You do that during the whole summer. That's what AEW is. And unfortunately, it's now carried over in offense. You know, everybody's got to do the exchange of the forearms, kicking out at 2 3/4. Why is the kicking out at 2 3/4 so amazing and over with AEW fans? Because that is the element of adrenaline. Why do you think wrestlers don't kick out at 1? Unless they're just totally dominant and they're facing a jobber. Why do wrestlers kick out at 2 3/4 and not at 1? Because that idea that you're about to count to 3 and you stop, everybody's like, oh! Everybody in the crowd, 1, 2, oh! That's the same thing with AEW, with the exchanging or no selling of things and kicking out at everything. It's not about being invincible. It's not about no selling. It's about that 2 3/4, because that is the emotional moment for the fans that are like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, 1, 2, oh. I thought he was going to count. This is awesome. That's what it's about. Even when you see that flurry, you ever see matches sometimes and they'll have the flurry of pins. Someone to get a 2 count, then the person will reverse it and there's another 2 count. Then they'll roll over and it's a 2 count. Then they'll roll backwards and it's a 2 count. Then they flip over, sunset flip, it's a 2 count. Then the other do a 2 count. Then they both go up at the same time. And everybody's like, notice how nobody is kicking out at 1. They're all doing it at 2, 2.5, 2 3/4. So it's not about no selling. It's about this, this little bit of adrenaline rush that the match was almost over, but they still going, kicking out of the biggest finishers that you should be carried out in a neck brace and somebody kicks out at 2. That's another problem with AEW. When people do that, no finisher matters. Imagine if Undertaker was in AEW and he did the tombstone pile driver and then took the head. Seriously, this would be Undertaker in AEW. Tombstone. 1, 2. Ah! Everybody would kick out. He kicked out. He kicked out. No one's ever kicked out of the tombstone before. When or better yet, see, I don't have the tongue like Undertaker, but Undertaker would do the tombstone, take the guy's arm, and as they're pinning, he's got his tongue out. He's like, 1, 2, ah! And they kick out. It's just not believable. It's not believable. Believability, suspension of disbelief. We opened up this show talking about suspension of disbelief. That is commandment number 1 with wrestling. Suspension of disbelief. That is commandment number 1. And a lot of what I just said is not suspension of disbelief. When a referee can't enforce shit, that is not suspension of disbelief that, anything could happen in AEW. It's just like, they don't want to enforce the rules because they want chaos. And you know why that happens? Because they refuse to have DQs. They refuse to have DQ. You could count the number of DQs in AEW's history probably on one hand. DQs are necessary. Somebody interfering in a match to cause someone to win is very, very important. DQ victories are important. And for some reason, it is almost like it's almost like gets the Benoit treatment in AEW. They refuse to do it. So I just, there's a lot of things that just are left to be desired. When you see finishers, there's a reason why, they call finishers. And when people keep kicking out at everything, doesn't mean that person is, they still got a little bit of life in them. It gets to a point you're like, you know what? You fucking shoot Michael Myers 10 times. He gets up a couple of times, fine. But, if I fucking stab him, cut his arms off, cut his head off, and he's still getting up at 2, it's like, you know what? After a while, I don't believe it anymore. Even bad horror films, the person won't die. You keep doing something, they keep getting back up. You keep getting back up. When you hit that fatal blow, that's it. It's over. Even in horror films, it's over. Now in AEW, it's a 2 count. Near wants to know my favorite. Thank you, Bernard, for that again. Much appreciated, Bernard. Thank you. Near is asking, who's my favorite Mick Foley character? Easy. Cactus Jack. Easy. It's not even close. Cactus Jack has always been my favorite. Dude Love was very comical. I still remember when Steve Austin first saw Dude Love and he's like looking like, huh? What the fuck am I seeing here? Mick Foley always looked uncomfortable dancing with the girls as Dude Love. But Cactus Jack always is my favorite. I have at least 7 Cactus Jack shirts in my closet. I have one that's pretty rare too. Actually, it's the ECW one. If anybody remembers, in 1996, when he went to the WWF, they came out with a white T-shirt that said Cactus, and it said the year that it started, and then it said to 1996, rest in peace, because they thought the Cactus Jack character was dead, that it was never going to come back ever again. I still have that shirt. All right, we are going to start bringing this home. We'll finish in about 5 or 10 minutes. We got a big Money in the Bank tomorrow, and then Kevin and I got a big show this coming Monday. A lot to talk about, so I hope you could join us live in our Discord, 11:15 p.m. Tristan would like to know, what did I think of the infamous Sting and Jeff Hardy match where Jeff was clearly stoned out of his mind? Believe it or not, on Patreon right now, and I think, I'm pretty sure I did put it for our channel members on YouTube. I posted the podcast that we did that week, our reaction to Jeff Hardy being inebriated. Now, we didn't have all the facts when it first came out, but it was clear as day that he was high as a kite. All I do remember about that time, now listen, Jeff Hardy is changed. We root for Jeff Hardy that he remains sober. Absolutely. So please, what I say now is not a reflection of Jeff Hardy in 2024. What I will always remember from that match with Sting in TNA, and I am pretty sure we bring it up. In fact, I even think we played a clip on that DTKC show episode. I always remember Jeff Hardy being in a diner. Pretty sure Matt Hardy was there. And I don't remember who else. But Jeff Hardy was wearing like a green and gray flannel shirt, ball cap, and he was high as a kite. And he was talking about CM Punk. And I still have the video. I still have the audio. I'm sure you could go online and find it right now. And he's all high as a kite. And he's talking about CM Punk. I know you ain't fucking straight edge. And he's just ragging on CM Punk big time. And he's like, yeah, you want something? Fuck you. He did like this. And I'll never forget that, because he was trying to be like cool, ripping CM Punk. And here he is in TNA you know, high, and they blamed it on jet lag. They blamed it on a whole bunch of stuff. And it was fucked up. But, the thing is that some of the blame is on Dixie Carter because there were multiple wrestlers, not that night, but there were multiple wrestlers that were, taking substances at the time, and they weren't being drug tested. It wasn't being enforced as hard as it should be because it was a private company. And, some people, they had addiction issues. But I'll always remember that video of Jeff Hardy in the diner because that was recorded not too long before that incident with Sting. And it really turned me off with Jeff Hardy at the time. Rick wants to know, do I have any signed Cactus Jack stuff? Oh, shit, I got a lot of autographed stuff. Autographed T-shirts, photos. I have a personal letter from Mick Foley. Figures. One of my, Sockos. I don't have as many autographs as I used to because I liquidated my autograph collection many moons ago, but I've always kept certain things. Like, don't ask me why. I just haven't put away yet. But this is a letter that Terry Funk wrote me many, many moons ago. I have it out because when he passed away, we were reminiscing a little bit. But, Mick Foley is, my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. We don't agree on a lot of political things, but I think Mick Foley is one of the most genuine, nice, unselfish, generous man that I've ever come across. I don't want to start bringing up stories here, but what I will say is, and I've said this before, if I had $1 for every time Mick Foley did a good deed for someone that no one knows about, I'd be a millionaire right now. There's been so many times that Mick Foley has done good deeds for people and asked nothing. No cameras, please. Believe it or not, if you don't believe me, you can ask him. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was actually going to drive to his house and help him fix something with cable TV or wiring or something. He had a problem hooking up something with computer wire or cable TV, and he doesn't live, his house in Long Island is not far from where I live. I don't remember what part, but I remember he had said, is anybody local that could help me with this? And I reached out to him. I'm like, I'm working right now, but, I can stop by, and I was going to absolutely do it for him. And then he ended up finding someone a little bit sooner. But Mick Foley's one of the most generous people I've ever come across. It is unbelievable how much good he has done for people out there that we will never even know about because he did not want cameras around. So the letter is a little bit personal, but it's like a lot of inspiration and appreciation and a little bit of advice and just just very uplifting. Just very, very cool shit. I have a few letters personal. The two that, well, everyone is different, but I recently took out when Billy Reel passed away earlier this year. Billy Reel was in jail about 10 years ago. He had a bad relationship, and most people know the truth, but he had a bad relationship. There was an order of protection. He violated it. Didn't do any physical abuse, but was trying to work things out with someone that absolutely refused to, and called the cops on him. He got in trouble, and he had a drug problem at the time too. So he went to jail for about 4 or 5 months, and he wrote me a 5-page letter while he was in jail. And it was pretty powerful. I still have it. And, now he's passed away, which is awful. tons of Daphne stuff, which I know a lot of you have seen before. She's gone now. Terry Funk is gone now. It sucks is I'm probably like jinxing him, but let's just hope Mick Foley stays with us for a while. So it's Timmy Austin, the ECW zombie, God rest his soul. He was my hotline guy. We were partners. He had insurance with me. We used to hang out all the time. He wrote me a nice letter when he was doing the zombie stuff. I'll tell you a quick story. Some of you may actually appreciate. A lot of you remember the ECW zombie when WWE had their first ECW episode on Sci-Fi. At the time, the person who was the ECW zombie was Timmy Austin, Tim Culkins. He, at the time, was doing a hotline with me. So when Timmy called us up earlier in that day and said, make sure you watch ECW tonight, like, why? We thought at most he was going to be like a security guard or something. And the first person we see on ECW is him. And he's there, the zombie going, ugh. And we always thought originally that the zombie name was a tribute to Matt Zombie because my hotline at the time was me, Anthony the Funker, Matt Zombie, Brian Damage, Timmy Austin. So when he came out as the ECW zombie, we thought it was a tribute to a hotline host. But no, WWE wanted him to be a zombie. But for those that don't know the story, we cried that night because it kind of felt like, like remember when Joe Pesci, he thought he was going to be made, and Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro, they were all going to celebrate that Joe Pesci was going to be a made guy, but he got whacked. Timmy didn't get whacked that night. We felt like, oh shit, like a member of us, like was on ECW, even though it sucked. But after about a year and a half, Timmy didn't want to be the ECW zombie anymore. He wanted to be Timmy Austin. Because Timmy Austin, if any of you out there have never seen what he looks like without the makeup, he looks like a star. He had a good-looking face, a great body. He looked like a legit good wrestler, but he was not extremely polished in the ring. He always wanted to be Timmy Austin. He trained at Gleason's. He trained with Johnny Rods. And he was very frustrated that everybody wanted to book him as the zombie. And a lot of you have seen the picture. There's an infamous picture of me posing with him. I'm wearing my Don Tony stuff and I'm pinching his nipples. And the reason why I was doing that was because every time I was around Timmy, when he was dressed as the ECW zombie, I would always try to make him laugh. So he would be in character and I would put like my fingers up his shirt. I would give him a wet willy. I would play with his nipples. I would like play with his hair. At one time we did a show at VPW and he had this bushy hair at the time. And this is a bad example, but he was at ringside and I just took my hands and I went like this. And he's being a zombie guy and he just looks at me, goes, woof. And I was trying to make him laugh. So we went out to a diner after and I told him, I'm like, listen, Timmy, I said, I know you want to do Timmy Austin. I said, but look at all the kids, that are like flocking to you. I said, you're the friendly zombie. I said, you're getting booked Pew Zombie. And he would do autograph signings. And all of these kids would go up to him, want to take pictures with him. Someone would yank on his shirt. They would like to just play with, because he looked freaky. And he made a killing taking Polaroids. And he wrote me a letter once and he just thanked me. And he's like, look, he says, I can't thank you enough for, making me stick with it. And, we were friends. And when he passed away, it was just a horrible, horrible thing. And it was sad because I knew Timmy personally, and most people out there just knew of the ECW character. And they're like, oh, Timmy Calkins, one of the worst gimmicks in wrestling history, died at the age of 38 or whatever it was. And I was like, man, there was a lot more about Timmy than there was just the ECW zombie. I don't blame anybody out there, because for the casual wrestling fan, all they knew of Timmy was the zombie. But he was a good guy, man. He was a really good guy. And, it sucks. But, I still have his letter somewhere, and he was a very, very friendly guy. So, all right. Was he like Balls Mahoney, kind of? No. Balls Mahoney was a lot better in the ring. Balls Mahoney was pretty good at what he did. Balls Mahoney just, unfortunately, had a lot of addiction issues also. Balls Mahoney, just another, Axel Rotten too. I became friendly with Axel Rotten also. And, some of you know this already, but when I used to do the Mass Maniac show with the Mass Maniac, Axel Rotten would come on once in a while. And we have a couple of episodes. There's one or two online right now on Patreon and YouTube of Axel with New Jack and with me and with Maniac, and some of the funniest shit you'll ever hear. But Axel Rotten was really, really under the influence at the time. And it was hard because he would go on our show and make the announcement to the world that he is finally sober. And we would be like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And we realized it was almost like Johnny Law, where he had to publicly say it to kind of like challenge himself to stay sober now. Right now, you told everyone, now you got to do it. And then a month later, he'd be right back to what he was doing. And he passed way too young. Balls Mahoney passed way too young. So, and believe me when I tell you, New Jack, scary, scary motherfucker. Scared the shit out of me that night when he thought that I was going to wrestle him in Florida. He threatened to kill me on my personal Facebook page, where I think it was Mish that called me up at 2:00 in the morning. He's like, you need to look at your Facebook page. And I'm like, why? He's like, no, you need to like get up and look now. New Jack was one of the few people outside of my family and friends personally that I was a friend with on Facebook. He threatened to kill me because he thought that I was telling people I was going to wrestle him in Florida. The fact was I was going to manage someone that was going to wrestle him. And yeah, Near is saying, Near's said it right in the chat, I got up at like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm looking on my personal Facebook page. Now, I got my aunts there, my uncles, my cousins, know nothing about wrestling. And here's this black guy with about 50 scabs and scars on his forehead saying, you fat fuck, I'm going to fucking slice your ass up. I haven't even fucking retired to have you fucking fat fuck like you that don't know how to do shit. I'll fucking kill you, motherfucker. I don't care what you done for me. I don't care. I'll fuck you up. Don't you dare. And I wrote back to him like, no, Jack, I'm not supposed to fight you. I'm supposed to manage someone. And he literally and I honestly think he waited 30 or 45 minutes just to have me sweat. Like 30, 45 minutes later, it's like 3:30, 4:00 in the morning. All he writes, 2 words. He just writes, my bad. And I thought it was the funniest thing, but he scared the shit out of me. He scared the shit out of me. But let me tell you something. If you were friends, and I think I could say this on behalf of anybody in wrestling that was friends with him. If you were friends with New Jack, if you were on his good side, he was one of the funniest, would I say friendliest, one of the funniest people to be around. You know, the Terry Reynolds photos is the wackiest story of them all. And I got to put that episode online. I just haven't had the time to do it. But, you know, I'll leave you with this. We'll finish with this. When New Jack was still alive and he was doing our shows, he was dating Terry Reynolds. And it was an interesting relationship. Let's just say that. And one night New Jack and Terry Reynolds took some photos. And I actually posted one, I think on Discord a couple of weeks ago. Pretty sure I did. New Jack took a bunch of pictures of Terry. Very, very skimpy outfits. And she was sliced open. She juiced. She was bleeding like a pig. And he took all these photos of her. And it's all Terry Reynolds without makeup, bleeding profusely, as if hardcore wrestling. And we were on the Mass Maniac show, and New Jack says to me, Anthony, I got some photos. I want you to put them on your website. And I'm like, what are the photos? He's like, me and Terry. Trust me, you'll love them. And I'm like, well, let me see the photos. I don't want to get in any trouble. And he starts sending me the photos, and it's her bleeding like crazy. And I'm on the show, and he's laughing his ass off. I'm like, I can't put this up. Oh, come on, man. Come on, it's funny. And I realized he was doing it to hurt her. The relationship went south, but he had these photos that he wanted to expose of her, sliced open and bleeding like a pig. And he wanted me to put them on my website. And I'm like, Jack, I said, I can't do that. I said, I'll get you ain't no fun. And I never put them on there. So that and Bam Bam Bigelow with the ECW ring on eBay is probably two of the funniest stories. So you all know about the ECW ring, right? Should I tell you it before I go? Do you all know that story? You all know the story about the ECW ring with me and eBay? Mark says tell it. Okay. If anybody thinks I'm lying, if you do a Wayback Machine search, I even think Google you might even be able to find it still. Ask the Mass Maniac, he's still alive. Enough people remember the story. When ECW closed down in 2001, Bam Bam Bigelow had the ECW ring, the original ECW ring. He had it in storage. And he wanted to sell it. When he left WCW, his wife took everything. His ex-wife, she took everything. He was left with almost nothing. Bam Bam Bigelow wanted me to sell for him on eBay all of his memorabilia. He had an autographed jersey from Lawrence Taylor because of their WrestleMania match in 1995, I believe it was, 94 and 95. He was a huge fan of the Green Bay Packers. He had a lot of Brett Favre stuff. He had a motorcycle. He wanted me to sell everything on eBay. And no joke, you could ask the Mass Maniac, I'll never do another show again if I'm lying. Me and the Mass Maniac talked him out of selling everything. His WrestleMania match with Lawrence Taylor, he had all this autographed stuff from Lawrence Taylor about WrestleMania, and he wanted me to sell it on eBay. I would have bought it, if anything, but we talked him out of it. So anyway, he had the ECW ring, the actual ring, and he wanted to sell it. Now, that was something that we said, okay, we can sell it because what are you going to do with a ring? We asked a bunch of local indie promotions if they wanted to buy the ring. They were not interested. XPW, that a lot of you know I did work for, I asked them if they wanted to buy the ECW ring. I thought if anybody would want to buy that ring, Rob Black would want to buy that ring. Not only did he end up in the ECW arena, could you imagine if XPW got ownership of the ECW ring? I mean, it's almost like, if you want to screw your biggest rival, you end up marrying their wife. You know what I mean? So they didn't want it either. So I told Bam Bam that I'll put it up on eBay for him. I have an eBay account, still in existence now since 2000. My eBay feedback is 100%. I've never gotten a neutral or negative review on eBay. So in 2002, I think it was, or 2003. I think it was 2002. It had to have been 2002. I had perfect feedback on eBay. I knew how to sell on eBay. So Bam Bam asked me to sell the ECW ring on eBay. So I put up the auction. I put up a bunch of pictures. On wrestling-news.com, I put up a news article that I'm selling the original ECW ring. Again, if you do a Wayback Machine search, you'll probably find other wrestling news sites that reported it, that Anthony DiBlasi was selling this ECW ring, on eBay, if anybody was interested. So a guy from Australia that had a wrestling promotion in Australia wanted the ring. And he wanted to know how much it would cost to ship it. Now, I don't remember, this is 22 years ago, but I remember it probably would have cost like $500, maybe $1,000. It was a lot. You're shipping a wrestling ring to Australia. It had to have been done by boat and a few other things. Now, I just wanted to put the shit on eBay. I didn't know anything about forward freighting or anything like that. But the guy was very serious in buying the ring. So we looked into a freight company. We found a freight company that would do it. The guy said, okay, he's going to buy the ring. So I ended up ending the auction. The guy bought the ECW ring for $4,000. So now understand this is eBay 2002. This is not eBay of 2024. Obviously, the way you handled non-payers at that time was a little different. So the guy wins the auction, $4,000. We end it. I send the guy an invoice for $4,000. I get no response. We wait 3 days. We send him another reminder invoice for the ring, for the shipping. We get no response. The guy, as far as I remember, had a feedback history on eBay, so it wasn't just somebody with a zero feedback. The guy just never contacted us. So I call up Bam Bam with the Mass Maniac on the phone, and I said, listen, Scott, the guy never responded. We're probably going to have to put the ring back up on eBay. And the Mass Maniac with me on the phone, and Bam Bam Bigelow says, wait, Anthony, you got to give Bam Bam the money. And I thought he was joking. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you said that you were going to sell this. You were going to get a percentage of it. That's not Bam Bam's fault. Mass Maniac wanted me to give Bam Bam Bigelow $4,000 and then for me to relist the ring. I said, I can't spend that kind of money. He actually wanted me. And Bam Bam Bigelow was on the phone and not saying nothing. And I said, it's not my fault that the guy didn't come through. So the end result was I didn't put it back up on eBay. And Bam Bam ended up selling it to somebody locally. I don't know which promotion he sold it to, but he ended up selling the ring to somebody locally. I think it might have been a promotion in Jersey or maybe in even Pittsburgh. But somebody got that ring. I don't know why Jason Knight's name keeps coming to my mind. I don't think it was him, but that is a true story. That is a true story. Tonight, I got to put the entries up for the contest for Money in the Bank. So if I can't fall asleep, maybe I'll do some Wayback Machine searches, and I'll find the original articles. It's buried somewhere online. But yeah, I tried to sell the ECW ring for Bam Bam. We got, stuck with it, and Maniac wanted me to actually give him the money for the ring. And I didn't do nothing wrong. Yeah, the actual ECW ring that you wrestle in. The actual ring. With the skirts, with the poles. Yeah, and the funny thing is, I'll leave you with this. I tried to tell Bam Bam to sell just the skins. Just to sell the aprons and stuff. Because who cares about the ring posts? Like, really, the ring posts were just metal. I told them originally, just let's sell the apron and sell the skirts and sell everything but the post. And I remember Bam Bam's exact words, like, what the fuck am I going to do with the post then? Like what do you do with the frame? Nobody wanted to buy it just like that because I thought, okay, maybe you sell the original skins for like 2 G's on eBay, and then you sell the ring to a local promotion for 2,000. He got you 4, and it's a lot easier to ship the canvas than to ship metal. So, yeah, we'll tell more stories another time. I'm going to jet out of here. I'm tired. You know, it's a little teasing when you have the 4th of July because the 3rd of July, I went home from work early, had the disaster with my freezer. Then the 4th of July, we kicked back. And then today felt like a Monday until I got home and I'm like, oh shit, it's Friday. So now tomorrow is Money in the Bank. So we got a fun event to check out there. And then Kevin and I will be back on Monday. Now, Monday, what we plan on doing is we're going to review Money in the Bank. We'll talk about Raw because something with the Wyatt Six is supposed to go down on Raw. And I know that sounds like Captain Obvious, but something a little bit more. I'm hoping, again, that they attack Jey Uso and Chad Gable, or at least one of them. So we'll talk about Money in the Bank. We'll talk about Raw. We'll also get into the WrestleMania 40 behind the curtain and detail a little bit more and get into that and anything else that we could fill up in an hour and 45 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Keep spreading the word that the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show is back. Keep downloading the shows. That helps us more than you can imagine. Last week, we had our biggest week since we've returned together January 29th. It was pretty awesome to see how high up we got in the charts, which means to us is that more people are tuning in, more people are downloading the shows, and it gives us more of a reason to start looking into growing. And as the viewership grows, the listenership grows, Kevin and I will look into expanding content, obviously within our means because, we got to be a little bit careful. Kev had that health scare also, and me, I'm no spring chicken either. Although I will say one thing that's funny. Yesterday, Kev did a show on Patreon. And when I talked to Kev on Monday, I was like, are you doing a show Thursday? He's like, even though it's the 4th, he's like, yeah. He says, I'll be done with the 4th of July. It'll just be a very laid back show, nothing major. So I said, all right. So I told everybody on Patreon, I'm like, look, Kev's just going to do a very easy, laid-back show, nothing crazy. If you have a topic you want him to get into, post it. We didn't want to overload him with, 100 questions. So I give him everything yesterday. You know how long his show was? 4 hours and 53 minutes. So if you're a fan of Kev Castle's Castle Chronicles, last night's show was 4 hours, 53 minutes. When he sent it to me this morning, I was like, motherfucker, get sleep. I mean, I don't mind him doing it that long. Are you nuts? Get sleep. 4 hours, 53 minutes. God bless him. And you know what? God bless everybody who tunes in. Because the fact that it went that long means that people were hanging out. Because we certainly don't talk to ourselves. So very, very cool. But yeah, almost 5 hour show he did yesterday. So here, this episode is 2 hours and 40 minutes. And we're only halfway. We're not even halfway of what Kev did yesterday. So guys, have a good weekend. Enjoy Money in the Bank. Be a friend. Tell a friend about what we do. And I hope you all join us Monday night after Raw. It's going to be a fun episode. Oh, not just yet, good fellas. It's going to be a fun episode Monday. I think Money in the Bank is going to be a very good show. Very curious to see how they handle Drew McIntyre. And we'll see what goes down with CM Punk and obviously everything else. I don't know if Randy Orton will make his move on Cody as of yet. You know, I'm almost starting to think, would they dare do Cody and Solo at SummerSlam? I would not be surprised. Even though we're all expecting Randy versus Cody at SummerSlam, now I'm starting to think, maybe we get Randy versus Cody at Survivor Series. That is November. We're in June. So setting up 2-3 months of Randy Orton and Cody, you know, is it overkill? Maybe. But would they dare wait until Survivor Series? Who knows? Enjoy your weekend, everyone. I'll catch you all again soon, and you all have a good one. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.